Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Theater Podcast, intimate, personal conversations with the industry's biggest names. I'm your host, Alan Seals, and our guests today are the leads of the national tour of The Prom, Kaden Kearney and Kalyn West. Every time I speak with anyone who was involved with this show, who was involved with The Prom, you can just feel the love that pours out of them for this story and how much it means to them and the audience. And you'll hear from the conversation with the two of them. It's allowed each of them to become more comfortable with who they are individually and they both hear constant stories from the audience. They get feedback and DMs through social media and whatnot. They hear these stories from the audience that the show has literally changed their lives. You hear people talk about like, oh, I saw a Broadway show and it changed my life. But this show, specifically The Prom, has a reputation for literally helping people change their lives, whether it's coming to terms with their own sexuality or coming out to their parents or whatever the case is. There are so few stories that have to deal with queer teenagers that this one stands out in a way that just touches so many people in such a phenomenal way. Go see the show if you haven't seen it. See Kaden and Kalyn in the tour if you can, if it's coming anywhere near you. Find me online on Instagram and Twitter at theater_podcast, on on TikTok at the Theater Podcast. And now everybody, please enjoy this wonderful interview with Kaden and Kalyn.
Here you go. 1, 2, 3.
I am so incredibly happy to welcome today's guests, two of them who are representing one of my favorite musicals of all time, no joke. Kaden Kearney as Emma and Kalyn West as Alyssa Green. They are both starring opposite each other in the national tour of The Prom. Kaden and Kalyn, I am so thrilled to welcome you both to the podcast. Welcome to the Theater Podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here. Yes.
Oh, it's amazing. This show, when I say it's one of my favorite musicals of all time, I absolutely, I mean that very, very sincerely, because you hear the trope of like, I saw theater and I went to Broadway and it changed my life, and it's like, that's what I want to do. People say that's what I want to do. That's what it just makes people want to become an actor or whatnot. But this show goes so far beyond that, because it speaks to an issue of queerness. It speaks to issues of being non-binary. It speaks to religious intolerance. There are so many levels that this show, as you start to pull back the onion of what The Prom is, because you look online, like, what's The Prom? It's like, oh, four washed up Broadway actors go to the Midwest and help a girl go to prom with her girlfriend. And that doesn't even scratch the surface of how amazing this show is.
It's so hard to put this show into a soundbite, into a single sentence. Like, usually I'll start trying to explain what it is, and then I end up resorting to, you just need to come and see it. Just come and see it, because it's beyond words. You have to feel it. Yeah.
So for the two of you, and you've got completely different experiences leading up to the same moment. And I love that about the both of you, because Kalyn, you were part of the original Broadway cast, mm-hmm. and Kaden, you're relatively newer to the scene, being this is your first national tour, and you haven't had the fortune of being on Broadway yet, and so you're both coming from different directions with different personal backgrounds too. And there's so many questions I want to get into, because like Kalyn, I think you were born in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. So stereotypically very Mormon, not going to assume anything, but that's out there. And then Kaden, you identify as non-binary. So you're bringing that personal experience into the show and into the world. Mm-hmm. So I guess Kalyn, let's start with you, and tell me your story of how you got into theater in the first place, and then how you got involved with The Prom.
Well, I mean, whenever I get this question, I kind of always have to take it back to my mom always told me that I was singing before I could talk and dancing before I could walk. So it was like zero surprise to anyone that I wanted to be on stage and I wanted to dance and I wanted to sing and I wanted to do all those artsy things. I was very artistically inclined. And so from a pretty young age, I started off as a dancer and I moved a lot. So it was kind of like my training was a little spotty, but I did like classes here and all over the place. And it wasn't until I got into junior high that I even started to have a concept of musical theater. I'd no one else in my family does this. So I honestly had no idea what it was or what it entailed. And the only reason I fell into it was because a friend of mine dragged me to the audition in 7th grade. Because they needed more dancers. And so I was like, okay. So we went and it was a production of The Music Man, the only show I was about to say the only show I've done twice, but actually this one I've done twice now. But so Music Man was my first show that I did in 7th grade. And I got a solo in Wells Fargo wagon. And I remember suddenly thinking like, oh, like I'm good at this. I can do this. And well, because I didn't know. I'd never tried it before. And so I got more into it. And then it was really in high school when I got my first lead. I played Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And I just remember feeling this sense of confidence that I had never known in my life. I felt really in my own skin. I felt like I started to see who I was. And I felt powerful. And I'd never felt that. And so I kind of just decided then and there that I was going to do it. And then that's what I did. So I went to Weber State University, which is a university in northern Utah. And there's a great musical theater program there where I got some really wonderful opportunities in all aspects of the theatrical endeavor, from tech and costume design and like set design. And then like I ran the soundboard once for a show and it was the most awesome experience ever. So I did my bachelor's in musical theater there. I also got a bachelor's in anthropology while I was there. And then shortly after I graduated. Huh? No. Anthropology, the study of peoples and cultures, which is what actors do.
That.
Yeah, the science. Yeah. The science. Yeah, so I did that, I just think that made me a better artist. It made me a better human. So after I graduated in 2013, I did a show locally and I managed to get my equity card pretty fast because I'd always told myself I needed to join equity before I moved to New York because I knew I was going to have to work to support myself once I got to New York. So I was like, I have to be able to get in the rooms. So that was kind of a prerequisite for me. And I did this show where they were short an equity contract and the artistic director and director knew I was going to move to New York. So they gave me my equity card. So I was very fortunate. Yeah. And after that happened, I was like, well, there's nothing standing between me and the city besides buying a plane ticket. So I bought a plane ticket and I left. And I didn't have anywhere to live and I didn't have a job. And then I landed and I crashed on my friend's couch and I found both within a week. So it was kind of wild. And then, just spent the next number of years auditioning. And I got my agents, which was such a blessing. That was a huge game changer for me to have them in my corner. And then it was 2018 when I auditioned for Prom. And I remember getting the audition and thinking like, I'm not right for this. And then I went into the room and it was a dance call. And I remember walking in there and seeing tons of like girls in jewel tone shirts and like lots of bright colors. And I literally came in with like a dark lip, kind of looking like I look like right now. I was all in black. I had like a black crop top, black cutoff shorts, dark lipstick. And I was like, well, I stick out like a sore thumb. And so I was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to have fun and like go for it. And it ended up working out for me and booked it. And it was my Broadway debut. And it was the most wonderful and exciting and challenging, hard thing I've ever done in my life. And when it came time for us to close, it really did feel so premature because it's like you said, this show actually does what theater overall claims to do. It changes people's lives. It really does. And it's so sneaky about how it does it, because it fools you. It covers, like you mentioned, it covers so many different hard topics, but it does it with such a bright, joyful, hopeful atmosphere that you don't even realize that you're learning so much because you're laughing so hard and smiling and you're so invested. So, this show was such a gift. It was a blessing. And I honestly never thought that I would come back to it. And I got to play Alyssa 10 times on Broadway.
So you were understudying both Emma and Alyssa.
Yeah, I started off understudying Alyssa, and I understudied her the whole time. And then after the Tonys, I took over as the second Emma cover. Never got to go on as Emma, but I got to learn the track and just I was just like, yes, more, give me more. I want to be in all parts of this show. Honestly, I want to play all the roles, all of them.
You want to be Barry Glickman?
Yes! One of my I was literally saying this morning, I was like, if I do gender bending, I want to sing Barry's Going to Prom. It's one of my favorite songs. It's one of my absolute favorite songs. So, it's just been such a surprise. You never know where things are going to take you. So here we are coming back to doing this show again. And it doesn't get old. It really doesn't. It can't. It's so beautiful, and the heart of this show is so huge and so resilient and so genuine. It's hard to not love being a part of it. It's a real gift. Okay, I have talked a lot. I have talked a lot.
I will cut that together.
Yeah, we'll come back to this because I have so many follow-ups for that. But
Okay.
Kaden, tell me your story.
All right. Well, I also started out as a dancer. No, I'm just kidding. We're all
In
laughing.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you did grow up around a lot of Mormons.
I did grow up around a lot of Mormons. We had my part of town had a lot of Mormons. So a lot of my friends were Mormons. And I'm not going to go down that road. Anyway, no, I did theater, from a young age. We had after school programs through our school where we did little plays, and I participated in those, and I loved it. And I did it all through high school, musical theater and theater and choir, and never really was a dancer, not really my strong suit. I'm a strong mover.
I can relate.
How many people identify I'm in that category. But that didn't stop me from doing musical theater. And, I worked on my dancing as hard as I could. But I know my strengths. It's actually funny, when I auditioned for the Prom and we were in the final callback, I brought, movement clothes because I thought for sure they were going to, have a dance call because Emma dances at the end. And I thought to myself, all right, I think they really like me, but they're going to see me dance and then just be like, oh, too bad. But they didn't have a dance call. So I lucked out, and we had just we have the most amazing dance captains. And, our team is just so supportive, and they all help me so much. So I got the dancing down, and now I just have a blast doing it.
It's so fun.
And you saw the original Broadway production, I believe, when you were in New York for your grad school showcase?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes. So I went to, I did my undergrad at Cal State Long Beach, and then I graduated and went straight to grad school. So I just did years of school, so much school. I went to University of California, Irvine, did my MFA there, and then, we did our showcase. It was 2019. So it was one of the last in-person showcases for a while.
Wow.
Because of course, 2020, that class had to do everything virtually, which I feel for the class of 2020, especially across the board. But it was awesome. And I got rush tickets, I think. I won. I didn't win the lottery. Maybe I got through Today Tix or something. And I went alone, and I sat in the mezz, and I thought to myself, I was like, oh, this is I have to see this show because it's a queer show, and it's going to be kind of like surface, like funny, like just a big like Broadway, like, you know, I had this expectation that I was just gonna like be entertained, and I sobbed like a baby. Like I was sobbing alone in the mezzanine. And it was wonderful. It was cathartic, and it was so special. And I connected so much to Caitlin's performance and to Emma, and I just knew immediately. I was like, man, if I ever get a chance to do this, I really want to. And when the movie, when the breakdown for the movie came out, I like begged my manager to get me an audition, and they didn't want to see me at first. And he like finally convinced them to see me, and I auditioned for the movie. And then when the tour came out, I was like, all right, here we go again. Like, I got to give it my shot. And, the universe said, okay. So, now I get to do this, and it's unreal. It's unreal.
Do you remember seeing Kalyn when you went to see the Broadway show?
Yes, of course. I didn't like. I didn't like make the connection. Because you were Shelby.
You don't have to say that.
You were the mean girl.
Yeah.
I was like, ew, I don't like this girl.
Do you like the bear?
No, yeah, I definitely remember. And then when we were cast, I was in my wig fitting, and I caught wind of who was cast as Alyssa.
We didn't know who was who.
We didn't know who was who, right?
Yeah.
So, and someone slipped it out, and so I reached out to Kalyn on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, I hope it's okay, but I'm gonna be playing Emma, and like, nice to meet you." Yeah.
When did you? When fitting, when did you get the casting announcement? Because the timing of everything with COVID just has screwed everything up, right? So there's casting, there's rehearsals, there's tour beginnings, and all of this.
Yeah.
So when did you both find out that you were in the touring production?
You found out first.
I found out first. I got my offer in June for it.
2021.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, was it June?
Yeah.
Because I was home. I was here.
I don't know.
I'm bad with timelines sometimes. So, but I found out first because most of the Broadway cast had right of first refusal. So I found out first, and then I was just waiting for a long time to find out who everybody else would be. Casting announcement actually didn't officially go out
until we started rehearsal
right.
to the public
in September.
But we got. I heard. I think it was the beginning of August.
Yeah, because you reached out to me in August.
Yeah, we auditioned in July, and the callbacks. We did a self-tape first, and then callbacks. Two rounds of callbacks, I believe, for Emma's.
Oh wow,
least.
you did a self-tape, and
yes.
National tour came out of a self-tape. Oh God,
yes,
that's so far
my
beyond.
Poor neighbors.
I remember.
How many times did they hear me go, and a song, like over and over and over?
God, I remember. Okay, I'm gonna date myself here. Is what was this? 2002, I want to say. I had a manager at the time, and she was trying to get me in for TV and film, and the studio execs wouldn't accept digital submissions.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm in North Carolina at the time. That's where my manager was. She had relationships with all these studio execs from her career, and they were like, "We got to see this guy in person."
Yeah,
I mean, come on, how easy is it just to tape yourself and send it over the internet? And they didn't know how to open it. It was ridiculous. So I'm glad to see that this has come full circle for you. And Henry Cavill got the role I auditioned for Superman. That's all I got to say.
You're not bitter at all.
It's fine.
I'm not bitter.
It's fine.
I'm not bitter.
And just a lot of self-tapes.
And done a lot of self-tapes. And Zachary Levi, he and I both auditioned for Chuck. He got Chuck. So now, whatever. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. Let it go. Let it go. All right. So then rehearsals start you said November? September 2021. And then the tour began in November, right? And we're recording this in end of May 2022. So you've both been going for quite a while, and there's still plenty of stops left. How has, I guess, so for Kalyn, for you, you've got a couple other tours to compare this to. How is this one different with all of the COVID restrictions and lockdowns?
I mean, I don't have a lot of other. I had just joined Mean Girls when the pandemic shut us down. I did 10 performances and then we closed.
Wow.
And that was my first tour, honestly. But it doesn't take very much. I mean, the things that are so different, I mean, and please, like, jump in if I'm missing anything. But, like, there's no stage door. We can't go do that. We're wearing masks. Like, the second we come off stage, mask on. Right before you go on stage, you're like, wait, and take it off, put it in your costume, go on stage. We're testing multiple times a week. At one point during, like, a COVID surge, we were testing every day.
Wow.
And in most of these cities, you know, we're not going out to eat. We're not going out to bars. So the socializing or like the touristy getting to like explore each town that you're in is really limited. Because we just have to be so careful not to get COVID. Because when you do, it's like it can spread so quickly through the cast. And then you're stuck in whatever city you get COVID in for 10 days. And so,
yeah, we're looking forward to the summer. I think the winter was particularly hard because you can't do outdoor activities.
Yeah.
So you're really limited to like what you can kind of do. So there was a lot of, you know, going to the show, coming back to your hotel room. And it was tough to kind of like stay, you know, positive at times when you just feel like you're kind of trapped inside. But, but, you know, I think the biggest difference for me, I mean, I granted I haven't done anything on this scale without COVID, but the rehearsal process was really difficult because we were wearing masks the entire time, and we didn't take our masks off until we did like run-throughs at the very end. And so you've never met your castmates before, at least for me. I didn't know a single person on this show yet, and you're trying to connect with people and act with them, but you only have this. And it was so difficult to like, I've never tried to like build chemistry with my fellow, you know, actors with a mask on my face, or to sing or belt, or, you know, and then I'm not even complaining because the dancers had to dance and rehearse choreography with those masks on, and they are like inhaling their masks. I mean, it was...
I remember you sent me video of rehearsal with them in the masks, doing Tonight Belongs to Us in masks. And I was like, what is happening?
That was so very challenging on like a psychological level, on like a physical level. And so when we were able to take the masks off, although that was its own level of like fear, it ultimately, it was like, oh, okay, now we can do our job. It felt like I could like do my job again. And then,
Yeah. That's interesting because as two people, like a couple, right? This is one of the few businesses where, I don't know how many other businesses, well, there's a couple. I was going to say, one of the few businesses where you walk and you're like, all right, I have to kiss that person. I have to hug that person. I have to do this with that, right? And so to walk in and to have that restriction of, like you said, being unable to really connect and build that chemistry. If you're going to make it real, if you're going to make it authentic, then smiles are so important. And I picture, if this were a comedy in my mind, it would be like, finally you get to see somebody with their mask off and they got like these giant snaggle teeth and you're just like, oh God! Anyway, but obviously the two of you overcame the mask and the chemistry aspect, or possible lack thereof.
We didn't really have to do that because I missed the whole rehearsal process. So I was doing another. I was in San Diego.
She was.
I was doing a show. I was doing a show.
You're just like, I'm not going to rehearsal.
I wanted to be there so bad. I was like, I wanted to be there so bad. I was like, this is really weird. Well, because I missed out. It's taken me the 6 months of being on tour to finally build relationships with people. Because I came in and I was like, hi, I'm
the new kid.
I'm the new kid, even though I'm not. I know the show. Like, Courtney and I are the only two alums who came back. And so, but no, I was doing a show in San Diego at the Old Globe. It was a new musical by Michael John LaChiusa and directed and choreographed by Graciela Danielle, called The Gardens of Annuncia. I was working with Mary Testa, Eden Espinosa, and Andrea Burns. It was...
couple up-and-comers.
I just
my idols. It's fine.
No, but for real, it was. I had been waiting to do that show since before the pandemic. I was supposed to do it right after Mean Girls, so I was in Mean Girls for like 6 weeks because they needed a quick temporary replacement because one of their ensemble members had to go get surgery. So I was only supposed to come into Mean Girls for a little bit, and then I was going to go do that show. But, pandemic shut us down, and we really were not sure if this show was going to come back. And it was one of those that, like, I remember where I was sitting and how I felt reading that script. And I remember I finished it and I put it down and I had to go sit down and like sob. I have never read a script that like moved me so much. And it just felt like it was so close to my heart because it's about the women who made Graziella who she is. Her mom, her grandmama, her tia, these 3 monumental women who supported her and shaped her and, made the woman this legendary woman that we all know today. And so, I come from a household of a single mom and 2 sisters. And so, womanhood is very important to me, obviously. So it was it was very close to my heart. So I was doing that. And then we closed on the 17th of October. I flew to New York on the 18th. We had rehearsal for like 4 hours on the 19th. And then we flew to Paducah. Flew to Paducah, Kentucky the next day and started tech rehearsal.
True story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that? What was that like for you, Kaden? Who were you rehearsing with? An understudy with the stage manager?
Yeah, we were rehearsing with understudy, who was
Okay.
incredible and like stepped up to the plate in every way. And she's gone on. She went on for Alyssa as well. Yeah,
She covered both Emma and Alyssa, and she's gone on for both.
Yeah.
So
she's amazing.
she's a rock star.
So yeah, that's how we did it. And I reached out to you and we jumped on a Zoom call just to kind of get to know each other.
Yeah.
as much as we could.
We weren't going to have any rehearsals. We thought for a second we might have some Zoom rehearsals, but that just never ended up happening. And so like we met and then went into tech. Well, in person, but we met in person. We'd been talking and trying to do and developing a rapport.
But it was like the easiest thing. Yeah. It's just like this person is just like I met her and I was like, oh, this is so easy. Like we share a lot of the same I don't know, like energy. We just like vibrate on the same frequency.
We're very much cut from the same cloth.
It was lucky in that sense. Like we both just kind of there was trust there and goofiness and playfulness and we made an effort to like really get to know each other during tech and like spend time together and, make sure we felt comfortable with each other and all that. And yeah, by the time we opened, it felt good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And this one like literally like put up a performance in like a day. Like in that 4-hour rehearsal, she was like, oh yeah, what do I do again? Oh yeah, right. Well, I cross here. And then like, just like, brrr, like all the choreography all came back. It was like wild to watch.
I had done it so many times, but
it's in your bones.
It was in my bones. Like, I came in, I'm like, I remembered all the music. I still had my track sheet. So my understudy track sheet. So I still had all my numbers. I had all my costumes, my props, like I had everything. And so I just kind of had to go through in my brain and go, okay, here, okay, well, got it. And it all just came out again after 2 years.
We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for more of the episode. When you're going from taking a Broadway production and moving it, and moving it and moving it and moving it and moving it, as in the case of any national production, do you is it the same set that was used on Broadway, or do they have to recreate it slightly smaller? Or what are the size requirements? Are the numbers always spaced out the same? And like, do you have how much tech do you have in every space before you have to open?
A lot of it, I mean, we only had one tech. We had tech in Paducah, and since then, you don't do a tech. But it's basically, it's such a well-oiled machine. Like, whatever we it's the same for us. Most theaters, it feels the same for us. Sometimes depth changes and the backstage changes, but what is on stage is typically exactly the same. Like it all fits, it all spaces out. Most of the stuff that we have is still original, but this production is missing some set pieces. Like the Applebee's is much smaller. There's only one booth instead of 3. Obviously, like some of the set pieces, like the office or the bedroom used to be able, or like even anything used to be able to move on an automated like track in the floor on Broadway. But now we have stagehands who do it. A lot of the sets that used to be like, I can't remember exactly what they were. They were thicker.
Well, like 7-Eleven is
it's a backdrop.
We have
now.
some backdrops.
So
that
a
are
lot
just
of it,
easier
a lot
to
of it is
travel.
like backdrops. Yeah, because they're easier to travel and easier to like assemble.
But
quicker.
we travel a floor.
Yeah,
We travel Marley with us.
Yeah.
So our floor is always the same.
It's always the same.
And the numbers are
neat.
there.
Yeah.
So because of that, like Kalyn said, like the backstage might change, it might be different, but like once you're on stage, it like looks the exact same.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll be in the middle of a performance and my brain will be like, what city are we in?
Literally every day I'm like, where am I?
Because it looks the same. And I'm like, all right, we're in this.
I'm like, what city are we in? What time zone are we in? I have no idea. But then you
That's
just
amazing.
click. You come to the deck, and it's all the same. So you're like, okay, and then you just click in.
It's fine.
Right. I figure it's just once you hit play on that whatever button is inside your brain, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, now I know where to go and when to go, and then mask on and off and all of that. It
Yeah.
becomes so ingrained in your body.
Except when you forget your mask, which I did once. I came out for the scene when Emma's wearing the really ugly dress at first.
Oh, you went on stage with your mask?
I went on stage with my mask. And I told myself before, I was like, okay, this might happen because we're going on and off. And I was like, I had this whole plan in my head that I would like make some funny comment about science class or something. And I feel like I broke character. I mean, I don't think I did, but like, in my head, I did. I was like, ah! I was like, mask on my face. And I like threw it behind the door and then like continued with the scene.
Oh my
God. It like totally threw me.
To be fair, you are not the only one who's done that.
No, I'm not.
There's been a few people who've done it because you get used to having it and then you forget that oh shoot, I'm on stage, take it off. Like
it doesn't happen often, but occasionally.
Occasionally it happens.
Yeah. I feel like the audience likes it though. They get a little moment of,
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah,
imperfection.
everybody loves to see everyone act human at one
exactly.
point or another, right? Right.
Yeah, that's always kind of fun.
So they traveling around the country and bringing the story. We touched on the depth of this story at the very beginning. Bringing this to people. What have been your experiences with the audiences afterwards? And I know you said you can't use stage door, but there's we have social media now, which didn't exist until a couple of years recently, right? So people can reach out, they can share their stories, they can send in fan art, whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. So being able to represent, like being a professional working non-binary actor or pushing through this story of queerness that is like Kalyn, what you were saying, it's just layered and layered with comedy and happiness that people don't realize that they've learned a lot by the end of it. And it's changing. It literally is changing people's lives. Yeah. So for the two of you, I'll stop talking for a second and tell me about your experiences with the audience in this way.
You go.
It's been beautiful to be a part of and to share it when people share their experiences and how they feel seen and how they feel heard. It's such a gift, and I feel honored to receive that and to be, the vessel that tells that story every night. It's a huge honor, and I mean, I think that this was the second ever lesbian teenager characters on Broadway. I mean, you had Medium Allison in Fun Home, I think was the first. Mm-hmm. And Fun Home, incredible, is not necessarily like a happy story. And I think that queer kids crave a happy, fun, joyous story with a happy ending. And
They deserve
and
it.
it's not that this show doesn't address, hard things. It definitely does. It obviously it addresses homophobia and queerphobia, but you get a happy ending, and you get two queer kids owning their truth. And that is so empowering for people. It was empowering for me as a, 26, I'm going to age myself, 26-year-old person who saw the show on Broadway. It was, and I'd been out for years, but it meant so much to see that. And to play Emma, it's healing for me too, because I get to go back to my high school self who did not have that experience. Who didn't get to go to prom with a girlfriend, and I get to go to prom every night, and that's really special. And in terms of the non-binary representation, that's just an extra beautiful layer that we get to have in this production. And I think that, well, when the cast list was announced, I knew that there would be some people who felt excited, but I totally underestimated how many people were so excited to see a non-binary actor play Emma, and how many non-binary people related to Emma. So that's just really exciting, because I think that for folks who don't know, they don't know, and for folks who do, it means a lot to them. So that's been really great.
Yeah, it's been really special. Yeah, ditto to everything that you said. I think something that's really cool is the accessibility through social media to be able to hear directly from a lot of the fans of the show. And even though, sometimes we have the bandwidth to be able to respond to them and interact with them, but all the messages come through. I see all of them, everything, and so many kids have shared how much this show means to them and how much it's done for them. And I can't tell you how many stories, how many messages I've gotten of kids saying, this show helped me come out to my family. This show helped me own who I am. And it gave me the courage to have these conversations, to be myself. And I'm being completely honest, this show helped me. For anyone who follows me on Instagram, I just came out. When were we in DC? When was that? November?
February?
February.
January?
Yeah. It's such, for anybody who's gone through the journey, it's such a complicated, layered thing. It's nothing that I can sum up, and we'd have to do a whole other podcast talking about that. But it had been a long journey for me, and I didn't realize how much I still needed to unlearn and unravel, and how limited I was making myself internally. And being able to play this character who, it's a little bit strange sometimes how much Alyssa and I have in common. It's been really rewarding and really liberating for me. So again, I agree. Like you said, playing Alyssa every night is really healing in a way, because, I will date myself. I am not afraid of my age. I'm 32. And so it's there's no timeline for any of this. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I've only just seen the full depths that I am. So it's and that's what I think is so special about this show in particular, is that it's for literally all ages. It does not matter. You don't have to be a teenager, a kid. It's for everyone. Everyone can feel something from this,
Because everybody wants to love and everybody wants to feel loved.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, period, right? And that's what I love about these characters. The character of Mrs. Green, there's an amount of love there because a mother loves her daughter, and she's trying to protect the daughter in her own way, albeit it's really messed up in the way that she's doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the daughter Alyssa wants to be loved by the mom, because we always want to be loved by our parents. That's just ingrained in who we are as a species. And then you've got the need to love friendships and to be accepted, to be loved, and to find that connection with your with a significant other, whether it be a best friend or a lover or whatever the case is. Like it's all just comes down to love, and that transcends age and race and gender and everything that you were just saying. It's so beautiful to be able to see your personal journey now and hear your story, right? Because I actually found it, like, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy for you. And
Thank you.
it was surprising, though, that you've gone through all the years of doing the show on Broadway and then now the tour. Like, it's this message that and this love that you've been around. And then, is it Kaden that pulled this out of you? Is it the production? Is it, whatever the case is, right? Like, and you may not have an answer for this.
I have a sort of answer, but I mean, go ahead if that was not your question. Continue.
Oh, no. Go, please.
I think, you know what? The things that are meant for us come to us when the time is right. They come to us when we need them. And I think everyone expects that the big pivotal moments in our journey happen to us in our 20s and we figure out who we are and then you're set and then you live the rest of your life that way.
Nope.
No, you will continue learning who you are until the day that you leave this planet. So, I think at the time, years ago, again, the layers, language is, the best thing that we have, but it's not always the most correct. So I identify as bisexual or pansexual is really maybe more accurate, which I always kind of knew, but I've always been in hetero relationships, which is true, which is a part of my truth. But I'd never given myself the freedom to explore the other side of things, and it's not that because I wasn't, accepting of it or excited about it or supportive of it. Like there really is something so strange about, like, I had never just looked at myself that way. Everyone around me, the whole world affirmed, oh, you're straight. You're a straight woman. You're straight cis woman. Like, that's all that the world told me. And so it's like, okay. And I was attracted to men. So I was like, okay, I guess this must be true. And so, because at the time when I was doing Prom Broadway, I was in a hetero relationship, So, and that's just, I think it was just the timing. I think that, I got to a certain point in my life before Prom came around, before I met Kaden, where I could just sort of feel something shifting. And I talked to friends about it, and I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I just had this feeling that I needed to go down this other pathway, and I needed to explore, and I really needed to open that door. And then once I really think it was perfect timing. And then the fact that the prom came back into my world at that moment was truly just the universe going, I see where you're going. I'm going to help you. Like, I trust her so much. And so I think that it happened right when it was supposed to, And I really believe that to be true about so many things. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to figure it out and have all the answers, but that's not what life is. So
no, I agree with you 1,000 million billion trillion % that it's anyone who wants to be a better person should becomes a better person by consciously trying to never stop learning.
Yeah.
Right? It's about learning more. It's about helping others. It's about becoming more self-aware and aware of others' feelings and emotions and just empathy, right? It's this is a show that should teach you empathy. And there's a story that I've heard, I forget if it's Caitlin or Izzy from the Promcast, that I've heard them tell it a couple times, that when they were doing the Out of Town prior to Broadway, there was an old grumpy man who came up during the stage door afterwards and was like, if I'd known what this show was going to be, I wouldn't have come. But now I'm really glad I did because it changed my life, right? Like, you hear these stories all the time of people who, if they knew that it was it's a story about lesbians, they wouldn't give it the time of day.
Nope.
But then because it is a story about love and presented in a way that makes you feel good and laugh at the same time, you're going to take that away from you in a way that maybe you never realize how important it was to you in that moment.
100%.
100%. All right. So
Yeah.
that, I think, is a lovely place to wrap up. And I have 3 standard closing questions that I ask everybody. So we'll take turns, and I'll ask each of you the same 3 questions. So the very first one, Kaden, let's start with you. Just what motivates you?
Ooh. I think the biggest thing that motivates me is the world around me, people, injustice in the world, and wanting to do my part to make that as, to push that needle forward. I think that definitely gets me out of bed in the morning and keeps me going. Yeah.
Kalyn?
Hope. Because none of that happens if we don't hang on to hope.
Ooh, I like that. All right.
Simple as that.
So Kalyn, we'll start with you for the second question. What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now starting out down a similar path?
Oh, so much. All
right.
I mean,
Buckle in.
oh, geez. Just, it's gonna be okay. Trust your journey. Trust yourself, develop your intuition, develop your self-respect. Be kind to everyone around you. Everyone's journey is going to look so different than yours. It is not a competition. It is not a competition. I could go on, but really it's just find out who you are, believe in who you are, be your own cheerleader, be everybody else's cheerleader, and really examine your why you're in the rooms that you're in. Why are you doing this? And making sure that it's always coming from this authentic place of wanting to give primarily over get.
That is lovely. All right. Kaden?
It is. How do I follow that up? I would say just, believe that you can be yourself in this world. And if you don't see yourself out there, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. And that your perspective is one perspective in a sea of perspectives. And every single other person you will encounter in this life has one perspective in a sea of perspectives. And so always keep that in mind and talk to and learn from as many people as you can.
Both such amazing, beautiful answers. Okay, so here is the final question, the hardest one. Kaden, we'll start with you again.
Oh, no.
If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Look at our faces.
Stunned silence.
Oh no!
I think okay, I'm just gonna go with my gut, and my gut said Rent. Do we hate me?
No.
I love that show. That show means so much to me, and it's beautiful, and yeah, I'm just gonna go with that because that's where my gut went. So I would watch Rent over and over.
I would say In the Heights, because that was the first time that I really saw people who looked like me on stage, and the first time that I, saw a show and heard music that I was like, oh, there's a place for me there. Wow, that's me. Because normally growing up as a kid, I didn't see myself anywhere in theater at all. I'm Colombian American, and in my entire career, I have auditioned for one role that said Colombian, and I didn't get it.
Wow.
So In the Heights was the first time that I really saw something that just spoke to me on this whole other blood level. And so yeah, I would choose that show.
All right. Well, let's wrap up. Tell us where we can find you on social media. Kalyn, start with you.
Yeah. So my handle is Miss Curly K, MissKurlykay. You'll see lots of pictures of my baby nephews and maybe some poetry on my Instagram.
Beautiful.
You can find me on Instagram as well. My handle, that's what it's called, is, you can tell I'm really savvy, is Kaden O. Kearney. So my first name and then O and then my last name. and I post sometimes. But I'm on it. I'm there, I promise.
We both have some pretty healthy boundaries around social media. So
Good.
We try.
Attempt.
Well, you can get more episodes like these at bpn.fm/TTP. My handles, my call signs are theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I don't know what I'm doing on TikTok, but it's the Theater Podcast. Leave a rating and a review wherever you are listening now. Share the podcast. It helps grow these amazing stories. This has been edited by Well-Rounded Hoodlum Productions. Jukebox the Ghost gave us our music. And Kalyn and Kaden, thank you so much for providing the amazing, amazing conversation. Kalyn, you love Jukebox?
I love Jukebox. Sorry, I just got very excited.
Yep. So when you listen back to this, you will hear Jukebox the Ghost.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. This is great.
This is amazing.
Thank you.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.